You are then ready to go back to the table base and find an opponent in whichever Discord servers you have joined. To use the one world map collections as explained on the neighbouring card, hit the black letter I on white background, tab, next to the mod, wait a couple of seconds, hit lock, click the next button on the one world image, double click the appropriate X's, click the build tab. There are more one world workshops of maps from old maps I reworked and updated for 9th with many narrative immersive disparate tables, to tournament map sets with mirrored terrain assets, as well as an 18 Crusade mission escalating one world campaign. I have linked to all my one worlds collection below. Pull the mission cards off the table with L or right click selecting unlock. I recommend you play your first games at 500 points to master basics, then go to 2k games, where battles tend to be less prone to quickly becoming one-sided than 500 point games, or have multiple lists available for smaller games and actually try and work out with your opponent which lists you think will result in the closest best matches. It's no fun when one person has hordes of infantry and the other person only has anti-tank guns, or one person has all tanks and the other person has no anti-tank guns. It's better to try and find a balance to have a more fun game for both of you, especially in smaller size games. I would play with just base core rulebook stratagems covered on page 254-255, which is page 62 and 63 here, for your first game or two. Then add in your faction stratagems in about your third game, found in these bags here, or in your codices. Scoring is out of 90 points, plus an additional 10 points for being a painted army, 45 points for primaries, and 45 secondary points max. I also recommend just playing primaries for your first game. How you score them is explained on mission cards, usually being 5 points for holding 1 or more, 5 points for holding 2 or more, and 5 points for holding more than your opponent, which is scored at the end of the command phase of your turn, except for the final battle round, for the player going second, who gets to score it at the end of the game. A match is pre-game, then 5 battle rounds, 10 turns, being 5 turns for each player. Secondaries have 2 areas on the table to enter them, and work out which ones you want to take. A card loader, with the categories clearly laid out, and a scroll system in the score sheet. Hovering over a secondary gives you greater details on how to gain points for that secondary. Page 256 to 263, 64 to 71 of this in-game piece, for some more advanced topics, including actions for secondaries, and finally, you will need to read the mission section rules for the game mode you are playing. The most common thing that comes up from the mission section rules is that most units starting off the table besides Space Marine drop pods can only enter the battle turn 2 or 3, and if they don't come in by the end of turn 3, they are destroyed. There are many abilities and things you need to remember and track in Warhammer 40k. To assist with this, I have organised, assembled and created many tokens to use to assist you in your games. There is also a phase tracking button already available in the FTC base table to secondary tracking tokens, to faction-specific ability and buff tracking tokens. There are 2 roll-offs at the start of the game. The first determines deployment and first unit placed. Roll-off winner chooses if they want to pick deployment and place a unit first, or get their opponent to do those 2 things. Then, once the result of that roll-off is determined, reserves and transports are declared. Then you take turns to deploy units until you are both fully deployed. Then you roll off to see who goes first, and the roll-off winner has to go first. To hit, you check a model's BS skill for shooting, or its weapon skill, WS, for melee. And you have to roll equal or higher than that number on the d6. Wounds is strength of the thing doing the attacking. Sometimes it'll be the weapon, sometimes it'll be the model, depending on the model's loadouts. And I have added a what dice roll you wound on table to this table base for beginners. Saves are armor penetration, the AP value versus the SV save value. Then, if your unit has a feel no pain ability to avoid damage actually taken, that is rolled last.